Okay. So, hi everyone, welcome to Gadja's second graduate student colloquium event of spring 2022. So before starting, a few words about Gadja. Gadja is a graduate student group at Georgetown University led by graduate students in the Department of Arabic and Islamic Studies. We organize different kinds of events to contribute to the training of graduate students. And in today's workshop, our presenter, Karen McNeil, will offer us an introduction on the use of Python in digital humanities. Before delving into the workshop, I would like to introduce Karen McNeil. Karen is a PhD candidate whose research interests include Arabic social linguistics, Tunisian Arabic, and literary translation. Her main interest is in the changing status of the spoken vernaculars in the Arab world. She is currently writing her dissertation on the development of Tunisian Arabic as a written language. Her dissertation focuses on the spelling and code switching choices that Tunisians make when writing a yet to be standardized language, and what these reveals about collective and individual identity stances. Karen has been developing the Tunisian Arabic corpus since 2011. This corpus contains materials from a wide variety of genres, including folk tales, talk radio, blogs, and screenplays, and provides data for reference materials for Tunisian Arabic, a bilingual Tunisian English dictionary, and basic coursework for Tunisian Arabic. So we can say that she's quite an expert in the field of digital humanities. And before delving into the workshop and leaving the microphone to Karen, I would like to thank her for her tremendous contribution to Gadja this year. This is her first presentation of the year. So thank you very much, Karen, for all the work you put in Gadja this year. And please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, Khadija. That was a great introduction. Although I kind of hesitate to call myself an expert in natural language processing because I feel like I'm always learning. But the reason I wanted to do this talk was because in the last presentation I gave for Gadja, when I was presenting my research, one of the attendees asked, how did you learn to do all of this? And basically I learned by teaching myself. And I really feel that this kind of work is something that is really valuable for scholars of pretty much any discipline I can think of. And that is actually something that anyone can do. Like, it seems really technical and difficult and everything, but it really is something that I feel anyone can do. So I just wanted to share with you guys how I learned how to do it and the kinds of things that you can do with just a little bit of knowledge of coding. So what I'm going to do is, first I'm going to talk about what kinds of like research questions you can answer with Python, and I'm going to give examples from my own work. And then I'm going to give some basics of Python. This isn't a workshop or like a tutorial, but I'm going to, kind of give you enough about the language so that you can follow along with the examples. And then I'm going to give examples from literature and Islamic studies of how you can kind of play with a little bit of Python and answer some interesting questions. Now, since it's a small group, I'm kind of curious to know where everyone's coming from. So in the chat, will you just write what department you're in or what your study focus is? So Hadicha, your Islamic studies.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm Arabic sociolinguistics. Okay, so Arabic Islamic studies. Oh, SFS. Great. Islamic studies with Arabic and philosophy. Wonderful. Okay. And Islamic law, great. Quranic studies, awesome. These are all things that you can do a lot with. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. And minimize all of you. I'm going to minimize the pictures. So if I ask questions or something, I can't see you like nodding or anything. So if you guys can just speak up so I remember that there's actual people here. So first I'm going to talk about some of my own research and the way I use Python. So this is a presentation I recently gave. So the presentation I gave last time in Gadja was about this project, which was basically looking at Tunisian Arabic use online and discovering that it increased just hugely between 2010 and 2021. And I did this entirely in Python. I collected a corpus in Python and then I analyzed it, coming up with a list of Tunisian words versus MSA words and counting their occurrence in all of in between the 2010 and 2021. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Okay, good. Okay, and part of that, I looked at a particular thread where people were, expressing language ideologies. So this is the corpus that I used. I collected 32 million words, something like almost 1 million posts from this particular forum website, tunisiasat.com. And then I also have a collection of Arabic novels, Tunisian Arabic novels that I've been working on digitizing and basically having people type them in. And then from this corpus and from my way of, kind of quantifying how Tunisian a post is, I created a subcorpus of only Tunisian Arabic posts. So some 64,000 posts between them. And so for this, like I said, I used Python, including a library called Scrapey to scrape all of this information from the internet. It's actually really straightforward. And then to do this, I just calculated the Tunisianness of each post. And then to get a sense of the spelling patterns of different people, I analyzed spelling patterns by genres. And then I also looked at those people who were involved in that internet, discussion about the status of Tunisian Arabic, and I divided them into anti-Tunisian Arabic and pro-Tunisian Arabic people. And I then, filtered my 2021 corpus for just their posts. And so I had like a pro-Derja and an anti-Derja corpus. And this is a good example of how the quantitative and the qualitative work kind of go hand in hand. You'll almost never have a project that's entirely quantitative. Like you have to know your data. So for instance, using that same package of Scrapey, I scraped that thread that was like 20 pages of discussion and debate about the status of Tunisian Arabic in Tunisia. And so I used this particular kind of coding to scrape all those posts. And that has a lot of benefits over doing it almost any other way. So for instance, you could, do this by copy and pasting all of these, but it would take a long time. And then also you would get all of this kind of, stuff that's for the website and everything. And even more problematically, you would also get all this quoted text. So if you were trying to like, characterize this particular person's language, you would have this quoted text that wasn't his language also thrown in there. So by doing it through Scrapey, I can get all of the text, I can get it very easily and have it downloaded to basically like an Excel format where I have each post as a row. And then I'm going to show you some Python, and I'm going to be using this website, which is Python Anywhere. So this is basically it's an online website where you can code in Python, and it has a lot of benefits from just installing it on your computer. This is a lot easier because installing Python on your computer and getting all the settings and everything can kind of be a headache. So I really like using this. And they have a free account that you can get, but I'm going to be showing you things on the IPython notebooks, and I'll tell you why. So that you need a $5 a month account. So I signed up for a little $5 account. This is what it looks like. And you can start coding in files, which are basically like text files that once you're kind of done with them, you just run it and it does something. But you can also code in these things called notebooks, which is what we are going to do, because you can kind of test it line by line as you go along. And hopefully this will load up. Yes, okay. So this is what's called a notebook. You just have line by line. And like I said, it's nice because you can test each line as you go along and see the results immediately without having to wait to finish the whole file. And then you can also label things. So I'm going to create a few lines here. And this first one, I'm going to make a label and call it AIS demo. And then our first line in this is going to be just imports. So these are not doing anything. These are just labels that help me remember where I am. I'm going to save a spot here for imports, and then we're going to get to Python basics. All right, so this line here is what's called an interpreter. Basically, it just takes whatever you type and it executes it. So you can do just basic math in this. So 1 + 5 × 2 - 3, and you get 8. So you can do math. Now this here, like what you write in here, it has to follow a certain syntax. And syntax is just kind of what it expects to see and what it's able to understand. It's kind of like the grammar of a language. If you have something that's non-syntactical, it will break it and it won't be able to understand it. So for instance, if I just do 1 +, I get a syntax error. This means this is not a valid expression. A lot of computer languages actually have some kind of mark for the end of an expression. So you'd use like a semicolon, which I think you can do. And yeah, but Python doesn't. Actually, what it does is it uses indentation. So if you're writing code and you're ending lines with a semicolon, if you don't indent it, it's really hard to read. So Python basically makes people indent it so it's easy to read. So for example, I could do if 1 + 2 = 3, print awesome. And 1 + 2 does equal 3, so it prints out what awesome. Now you can also, a bigger thing also is variables. So I can do my addition, this is just a name I'm making up, equals 1 + 3. And that didn't do anything because I wasn't executing it, I was just saving it in a variable. So when I write my addition, I get 4. If I do my addition + 3, I get 7. But adding that doesn't actually change this variable. It stays what I originally set it at, which is 3. Okay, now you can also have variables that set to words. So some word I'm going to pick is kitab. And when I write word, it says kitab. And you can also add strings like words. So I can do word plus E, and I get kitabi. And again, that doesn't change word. But if I wanted to, I can make my new word and make it word plus E. And then when I look at new word, I get kitabi. So this kitabi, you can see that the numbers are just plain, but the words are in these parentheses, or quotation marks. And that's because these are a type of data known as a string. And so there's things you can do with strings, and there's things you can do with integers, which are different. And we can see this if we go type new word, and it'll tell us that it's a string. If we do type 10, it'll tell us that it's an integer. There's a few other types, but those are the most important. And then another kind of data structure that's important to understand is a list. So I can make my list. A list is indicated by these square brackets. So I'll make a list that's A, B, and C. And if I look at my list, I get it's A, B, and C, and those are 3 strings. And then you can do lots of things with lists, like add new things to them. So I'm going to do my list append, and that just means to add to it, and I'm going to add 12. So we can see we have 3 strings and then this integer in this list. You can have any type of things. You can even have lists inside of other lists. But you have to be careful, because if you say I want to join all of these together in one string, I can do I want to join them with a space. So that's what I'm doing. And then my list. And I get a type error because this is something that you can do with strings and you can't do it with integers. So what I can do is my list equals, and then this is complicated syntax, don't worry about it, string x for x in my list. This is a really cool Python thing that's called list comprehension. It's a way of creating lists. And basically I'm saying that for each thing in my list, I want it to turn that thing into a string, and then it's going to save it as my list. And now I can do, oops. There we go. And now we can do the join, and it will join it all together because I changed this 12 into a string 12 instead of the numbers 12. And of course, when it's a string, you can't, add 3 to it and get 15 because it's a string now. It's just the characters. All right, so that's just kind of basic Python. Now we're going to look at text processing in Python. Okay, and so to do this, I'm going to give an example of when you have a text that's on your computer. So this is kind of literature, like some of what I do. So I have this text that's on my desktop, and this is the text of 2 novels that I had typed out. They're Tunisian Arabic novels. So Hysteria, A Fasal Owl, Adunia McNeil. So this is just Tunisian Arabic novel, and there's 2 of them. So this is a big file. And I'm going to open that in Python so that I can use it. So I'm going to okay, first I'm going to upload it to my Python Anywhere. So I have this notebook 1, which is what I'm working on. I should have called it something better. And I'm going to upload a file. And I'm going to make it this novel file. Wait for a second, and there it is, feza.txt. Let's change this. AIS demo. Okay, so I'm going to open that file. It's really easy, like just it's open and then the file name. So we have feza.txt. And then the way that you're opening it. So basically, whether you're opening it to read or whether you're opening it to write. We're opening it to read, so I'm putting in that. And then I'm going to say read, which is what actually enters all of the text. And so that's just going to give us the raw text as a string. So if we look at this raw text, we're going to use the square brackets to look at just part of it. So let's look at the first 1,000 characters. And you can see it's just a long string of the text. Now, usually, like pretty much any textual processing that you're doing, you're going to have to do some kind of pre-processing on it. Now, there is a nice package that's created for pre-processing, Arabic specifically, that we're going to import. This is one of the things that's really, really great about Python is that there's the basic programming language, but then there's also all of the code that people have written and saved as packages that you can import. So you're not having to kind of reinvent the wheel all the time because people have done all this stuff before. So we're going to import a package that was created by Nizar Habash and some of these people who do really great work in Arabic natural language processing. And this is called Camel Tools. So we're going to actually import a few of them. So from camel tools .tokenizers.word import simple word tokenizer. We'll see what that does in just a minute. And then from camel tools .utils.normalize import normalize Unicode. This is something that takes weird characters that sometimes people type in Arabic and makes them all the same character. And then normalize Aleph Arabic. That takes all of the Alephs that have hamzas above, hamzas below, no hamza, Hamza with Aleph with Aleph with the Mada, and it changes them all to just plain Aleph. And then last one is from cameltools.utils.ddiac, import ddiac Arabic. What this does is it removes any diacritic marks. So in almost any Arabic text you have, if you have any diacritic marks, they're going to be irregular and just kind of sporadic. And a word that has a diacritic would not be read as the same by the computer as the same word that doesn't have the diacritics. So usually it's best practice to just remove all of them entirely. Okay, so, a nice thing about Python Anywhere is that you can you don't need to install most of the packages. They're already pre-installed with Python Anywhere. There's a few that are not. So tokenizing and like processing Arabic text is not the most common thing that people do. So this package I actually had to install myself. But I forgot to install it on the demo account that I created for this. So we're going to go on my main account. And I'm going to create a new. While this is loading, does anyone have any questions about anything yet? We're going to do questions at the end, but if anyone has any questions about anything you've seen so far, I would be happy to answer them.
I have a question. So do you like create the package in the same website, the Python Anywhere, or is it like somewhere else?
So these packages, like most of them are already installed. Like all of the packages that we'll see, like in this demo, are already installed except for this one. And so to install this one, there's a specific thing you have to do to install it. You have to go into the here, I'll show you. Let me go back to the dashboard. So you see these consoles. Mm-hmm. So this is like a way that you can interact like directly and like with the file system and with the everything that's installed with Python. So you basically have a certain thing to install such and such package, and there's instructions in Python Anywhere about how exactly to do that. That's actually another great thing about Python Anywhere is they have this they have forums and they have help. And you can get help on almost anything, like especially when you're first starting. Okay, did I misspell something here? Simple word tokenizer. Tools.tokenizers.word. I'm going to open up the other one that I can copy this from. I ran all of this ahead of time just to make sure everything works, and looks like it's being a little difficult. Okay, we are going to skip that because it's not wanting to work. So we're going to skip the camel tools. But basically, it can normalize the text so that it's much easier to search because things that are the same will look the same after you normalize it. Okay, we're going to skip that. And then, and actually this text, I think it might have already run the normalization because you see like fil al, there's no hamza on that al, and illi, there's no hamza underneath. So these are the kind of changes that it would make. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is tokenize it. For a lot of things that you do in NLP, you don't actually want the words as a string like this. You want them actually as a list of words. So, so normally I'd run the camel tools tokenizer, but let's see, it's still not. Yeah, this isn't working. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to just split the string on spaces. So tokens equals the raw text, split it, and I'm going to split it on spaces. So now you see when tokens, like if I do the first 100, we get not the first 100 characters, but the first 100 words. And so once you have the words separated like this, then it's much easier to process it. What the Camel Tools tokenizer does that this simple code doesn't do is it separates the punctuation from the words, which is very helpful, because if you have a word plus a period, it won't show up as the same word as a word that doesn't have a period. So that's important to do, but we'll skip it. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a bit from a package called NLTK. So NLTK is NLTK. It's the Natural Language Toolkit. And it's a really helpful package in that it has a lot of tools for kind of really basic language processing. Like it has a tokenizer. A lot of the tools are for English, but there are some that are useful for any language. So I'm going to say that I'm going to take this novel text and I'm going to make it into an NLTK corpus text. So the tokens, I'm going to make an NLTK corpus text, because the corpus text, they can do some fun stuff with it. So for instance, with NLTK, you have a concordance function. So I'm going to make a concordance on what word? Dunya. It's one of the first words here. And so this gives me 211 cases where dunya is used in these novels, and then it shows me the context for all of them. So this is really useful for just kind of getting a sense for a word, like when you're trying to decide what your search terms are going to be and everything. This will show you. And then another thing is you can find words that are similar to other words. So for instance, if we look for mra, which means woman, it'll give us all of the words that are used in similar syntactic construction as that mra. So some of them are not going to be really valid, but you'll see that there's rajul, there's nes, so there's some similar words, and we'll see later how that's more useful. And then novels, you can count the number of terms. So for instance, let's see how much men are talked about versus women. So hua, novels, count, kia. So about the same. And then I don't actually use these much anymore. They're good for exploring and playing around. But what I usually use the most for NLTK is the frequency distribution. So NLTK, and it's called freq disk. And then I'm going to give it the tokens to make a frequency distribution of that. And then once I have the frequency distribution, I can do things like seeing what the most common words are. So let's see the 100 most common words. And we'll see a lot of them are kind of function words. Wa, fi, ali, besh, ala, min. These are all function words. And then you get can, imta, fiha, kul, khatar, mush. This is a not a function word. Neheb, I want or I love. And then ruhi, myself. And you can kind of get a sense for kind of, what the novel is talking about by what words it uses most often. And then you can also do regular expression searches, which this is a little complicated, but it's really worth the. So have any of you, like when you're using Word or something and you're searching for a word, you can like do an advanced search where you can search for like a wildcard, like you put in, part of a search term and then an asterisk, and it searches for like any character of that kind. You guys know that? So regular expressions are kind of like wildcards on steroids. Like you can really search for any kind of word, like really, really sophisticated kind of way. and you just have a lot of control over it. So I'll give an example. I'm going to, so a project I'm working on kind of as a side project is like looking at the system of negation in Tunisian Arabic. So first to to start this, I had to kind of see what the negators that are used are. So this is how I did it. So I searched for so all words that match a certain pattern. So this re stands for regular expressions, and that is another package we need to import. So what I'm looking for is words that start with a meme. So that little caret it starts with, and then are followed by any number of word characters, but basically letters. So this plus means one or more, and this slash or this backslash W means word characters. And then I want it to end with a sheen. And then this means the end of the word. So if I do that search, see, oh, so that's search, it's what pattern you want to look for, and then what text you're searching, which is novels. Oh no, so I want to do this on the string, which is to make the string, I'm going to take the tokens and just put them together. That way they'll be nice and clean string. So text equals join and tokens. So that just gives us the string again, but it gives us the nice clean ones that aren't, if we did the tokenization, that don't have punctuation attached to them at all. Okay, so, and I'm going to have this, so I'm going to have this search that text string. And it's going to take just a little bit. Most of the things I'm doing don't take very long, but some of them, like some of the things I do for bachelor research, like I press enter and then like I walk away, have a cup of tea, come back. Because sometimes when you're searching really big amounts of text, like when I'm searching the entire corpus of novels, or the millions and millions of words in the forum corpus, it takes a while. This expression I used here is that same like complex syntax that I mentioned above. It's a list comprehension, which is just a way of making lists. And so what it's saying is for every word in oh, whoops. I'm going to stop this because I made a mistake for it. So every word in novels. So I'm wanting it to search for this pattern. And so if for every word in this text string, if the word matches this expression, then to add the word to this list that I'm making. That should work better. Okay, so now we look at our W for W in text. Oh, actually, no, I need to can I do novels? There we go. Okay, so we have all of these negators. So these are all words that start with meme and end with sheen. So some of them are actually verbs like ma'adish, which I don't want, but most of them are what I'm looking for, which is these negation constructors, the mush, and then the manish, ma'aksh, manash, these kind of things. So so what I would do is then I save this as an Excel spreadsheet, open it up in Excel, take out the ones that I don't want, then save it and bring it back here to actually work with. Okay, so now let me give you an Islamic studies example. All right, so in doing this example, I'm getting a text not from my own computer, but from the internet, and specifically from this online corpus of Islamic study texts. So this is the Kitab corpus of Arabic metadata. You can just search for OpenITI and you'll get this. So these are tons of text in, ancient Arabic text and all that sort of stuff. So I took one text from here, which is the Sahih collection of, some by Bukhari. So the Sahih Hadith by Bukhari. And this is what it looks like when you click one of the links on that list. So it has some metadata about the text, and then it begins. So this is the full text of the Sahih. It goes on very, very long time. And then you can see it separates, tells you what pages are. It puts these, hashtags or the hash mark in between individual hadith, I think. And then it has these 2 tilde between each line as the line is in the book. This website also has the full Quran. And you can see it has the surah and line number for each of these. So there's a lot of resources on there for Islamic studies. So how I'm going to get this is the text file like on the internet. And so I'm going to copy that link. And then I'm going to open it in the same way as, well, before I was opening it on my computer, but we're going to actually open it on the internet. So we need to import something else. So from URL live, that's URL library, import request. This basically makes a request to the, just import URL request. Okay, so we're gonna save this URL as a variable just because it's a lot easier than typing it in the thing. So you can see we just saved that exact thing as a variable, book URL, there it is. And then to actually get the text, we're gonna use that URL library. So URL lib.request.url open. So this is actually doing the opening the web page. I wanted to open this URL that we saved and then read it. So it's similar to a file in that you're ending with the reading to get the text, but you're getting it from the web instead of from your computer. And we can kind of check what we got by looking at the length of the book URL. So this is how many characters it is. So it's 6 million and so characters. So it looks like we got it all. That sounds about right. And if we actually look at those characters, so let's look at the first 500, or let's say 1,000. We can see that this does not look right. There's all these X, blah, blah, all that sort of stuff. That's not supposed to be there. That means that this is in some weird encoding. Usually anything you do, like if you make a text file on your computer, whatever, like nowadays, it'll all be in an encoding called UTF-8, which is the encoding that encodes pretty much every language on Earth. But this apparently is not in UTF-8. So we're going to make it in UTF-8. We're going to do book text dot equals book text dot decode UTF-8. Oh, did I not say? Oh, actually, I meant to save this as book text. Keep my things separate. Let's try this again. That's the URL, and then the length of book text is 6 million. Okay. So we're going to decode the text, and now when we look at it, and look at the first 1,000 characters. Now we see that this is a lot better. We see that the Arabic is actually in there like it's supposed to be. But we still have all of this metadata here that we don't really want. And so this is an unusual part of cleaning up a text also is chopping off things that you don't want. So if we look at the text itself, we can see that it has all of this blah, 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 and then it ends it with this meta header end. So what we're going to do is we're going to split the text again, like we did when we made tokens, but instead of splitting on spaces and having lots of, every word, we're just going to split it into everything that's before that meta text and everything that's after. So And when we do that, everything that's before this will be the first item in the list, and everything that's after this will be the second item in the list. And we only want the second item. And in Python and most other programming languages also, all the indexes start with 0. So the first item is 0, the second item is 1. So we're going to just take the 1. And now if we looked at it, that looks a lot better. We got rid of all of that metadata at the beginning that we don't want, but we still have this other stuff. So there's these hash marks, and there's, you know, these page things, and then there's the tildes at the end of each line. And we don't want those, because those, you know, if we want to look for, you know, all the words before and after this, we're not going to want that line in there. So we're going to do some replacing. So book text equals book text dot replace. This is just a function of any string. Every string has things like split and replace that you can do. And we're going to do this line with the tildes, and we're going to replace it with just a space. And then we're going to do that with all that other weird stuff. So to get these, to get the hash marks out, hash mark, and then we're going to replace it with a space, and then the slashes, and we're just going to replace that with nothing. And then we're actually, I'm going to put all the lines together. So we're going to place all of the /n, which is a new line character. It's like a return, and we're going to replace that with just a space. And then after doing that, I'm going to have a bunch of multiple spaces. So actually, I'll do that next one. What did I do wrong? Okay, this end of line, that means that usually you forgot a comma somewhere. Okay, so. Oh yeah, see how this is red? There's something missing there. Oh, I know what's missing. Actually, it was this pipe mark that I needed to replace. That's why this is color coded, to help you find when you didn't close parentheses or do things like that. It makes it a lot easier to see. Okay, so now if we look at it, we can see that it has all that stuff gone, but it still has these page numbers and also the MS, these this MS, this must have been the pages of the manuscript, or I'm not sure what, but they're things that we don't want. But we can't just replace those because each one is different, because they're numbered sequentially. So this is a place where instead of using the replace function of strings, we would use regular expressions. So text equals 3 dots substitution. So I'm going to put the pattern I want to substitute. So we want to have anything that says page and then is followed by, on there, if we look, it's letters and numbers. It's like V00. So we're going to look for either letters or numbers. That's D for digits. And there's exactly 7 of them. Oh, and then we want to, so that's the pattern we want to look for, what we want to replace it with, which is nothing, and what text we're searching. So this is book text. And then we're going to do the same thing for that MS whatever. But in that case, it only has letters after it, and there's exactly 4 of them in all of them because I checked. So now when we look at the book text, we see that we're down to just the text. All of that stuff that's, you know, added as part of the metadata and the page numbers and everything, that's all gone. Okay, so now that we have this, we'd usually clean it and tokenize it. But since we don't have our camel tools, I'm going to just tokenize it the same way before by splitting it on space. And then tokens. Oh, sorry, the first 5. first 5 we have all spaces. Let's look for the first 100. Okay, I did something more. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we have all these words. All right. So now if we do that NLTK, so if we do the frequency distribution, and we look at the most common, let's look at the 100 most common. So we see the first one is Allah, and then we have an, bin, hadithna, qal, alayhu. So you can see this is a very, very different kind of text than the first one we looked at, which Allah wasn't even in the first, 20 or so, which is unusual for Arabic text. And so you can get a, kind of good sense of what the text is like from looking at these words. And then if we make it into that NLTK thing, so sahih equals NLTK dot text. So this is making it an NLTK corpus, basically. And then we can do that concordance again. But what I want to do instead of in concordance is I want to show you actually something where that similar is actually useful. So say we wanted to collect instances of every time someone is quoted as saying something, but we're not going to just get qal because there's like those different things like hadithna, and there's the different forms of qal and everything. So what we can do is find words that are syntactically similar to qal. When it has the asterisk there, that means that it's working. You can also see this little thing is dark gray because that means that it's working on doing something. I'm not sure why it's taking so long doing this. But when we do this, and what we get is we get qalit, we get waqal, faqal, hadithni, hadithna, akhbarana. Oh, here we go. So hadithna, faqal, waqal, hadithni, smaat, akhbarna, akhbarni, sma'a. So we can see that these are the words that are all used in the same context as qal. So if we were going to look for, something about quotations in this, these would be the words that we'd want to search for. And then I'm going to do some regex search. So I'll make a string. So equals dot join tokens. So we have a string, and then I'm going to search for every time it says that the Rasul Allah said something. Usually you could just write these all together in one expression, but since the special characters in the regular expressions are left to right and the Arabic text is right to left, it can be confusing. So what I do is I do them in kind of separate parts and then put the bits together. So we have our connector bits, which is like either fa or wa. And then we have the said part, which it's Rasulullah, so it's always going to be qal. And then the prophet part, which is Rasulullah. And then when we look for those together, we're going to do a find all of connector plus said plus prophet in the Sahih string. Okay, don't find all Sahih. Did that one? Okay. Oh, I know what I did wrong. I forgot the space. So it says fa, kala, and then space, and then the prophet. There we go. So we see فقال رسول الله وقال رسول الله, and I forgot to make this optional. So it's bringing up all the ones that have a connector. And this is all the ones that have a connector or not. And then we can add something else after that to find, what he said, in between when it starts talking and, the punctuation mark. And then we can actually make it so it returns only what he said and not the وقال رسول الله. But we're over time. So I'll just end it there. But so this will give you kind of an idea of some of the stuff you can do. And let me show you some of the resources. So we saw this wonderful corpus. There's also corpora of just regular Arabic texts, like not related to Islamic studies. Like they're mostly made up of news, and those are publicly accessible. You can access them the same way. And to find out like how to do on this, most of what you need, you can actually get online through the library. So the first project that I ever did, like the way I learned to do this, was making my corpus. So this is the corpus site, and this is all done in Python. The actual like page and the way it looks is HTML, but everything that's smart in it is done in Python. So like how it calculates the contents of the corpus, like every time this page is loaded, it calculates those. So if I add something, this changes. If I want to search for dar, but I want not just house by itself, but like if it's the house, his house, her house, everything like that, I can search for a stem. Nothing is working today. Let's see. That stem. Okay, that's working now. It's just slow. And then also the administration of the corpus. So how I, handle the corpus text, like if I want to add a new text, change, edit the ones I've got here. This is all done in Python. And see, we can see this dado. So there's a program I wrote in here that takes the input word, finds the stem of it, and then searches for other words that have that same stem, whether they've got affixes or not. And the way I learned to do that is when I wanted to make the corpus, I just got this book about how to, the website framework is called Django. It's a part of Python. And I just basically followed the book. I followed the Django tutorial, which this is their documentation, and they have very good tutorials. Python has something similar. If you look for Python tutorial, you'll find a ton of stuff. Pretty much anything you want to do, you can find a book or you can find a tutorial online. I personally like books because they go really into detail more than they do on like a blog post. But like if you wanted to, do scrape stuff from a website like I did, or from Twitter or Facebook or something, this is all how to use the tool called Scrapey, which is part of Python. Another one for how to like get social web stuff. So this may be more Twitter and Facebook. And all of these books, like almost every book that you'll find, is available online, because the technology books change so often that they I don't even know if they print them anymore. I think they just show them online, and you can access them through the library, the whole book. There's tons of them, and pretty much anything you want to do, you can learn about that way. And that is everything I wanted to talk about. I thought I was going to take half an hour, and I took an hour instead. So we can take questions now.
Thank you very much, Karen, and that was a very fruitful and interactive workshop, I think. Yeah, I know it was too ambitious to ask you to just present in half an hour, but that was really good and worth the time, I think. So yeah, we can just ask the audience if they have specific questions. You can either unmute yourself, or a small group, so you can just go and unmute yourself, or pop your question in the chat.
I have a question. So how big of a text can you analyze to Python? Is there a limit?
No, there's really not. I mean, people work on texts that are billion words. Like if you look at like a lot of English corpora, they're like a billion words or more. So that's actually one of the things that really is a benefit over some of the stuff. some of the stuff that, I do, like you technically do in Excel, like with the formulas in Excel, but like there's no way that like my corpus, it has the forum corpus, it has, hundreds of thousands of lines, each line being a post, and there's no way you'd want to try to work with that Excel. But with Python, really, there's no limit. The only thing is that when you're working with larger text, things take longer. Like the code I have to parse all of the text in the corpus, like to break each word down into its stem and affixes, that takes freaking forever. Probably
Right.
like, because maybe it's not coded the best way, it's probably optimized or something. But so if you have a bigger text, things might take longer, but there's really no upper limit on what size text you can use.
Okay. And I have another question. So like, what were you saying, the packages? Is there like a list of packages that people worked on, or how do you know like if there's something?
So basically you find out about them as you're doing it. So like, for instance, when I was, learning how to make the corpus website, and I was going through that Django book and the tutorials, it'll tell you, okay, for this, you need to import URL lib, or you need to import you learn on them as you go. And then the Camel tools is something that's very recent, and I was very happy to find out about it, because I used to have to do this stuff myself, and it has even more sophisticated tools, like for I think it has like part speech, like identification and everything, so you could like have an annotated text where what every word does, or the syntactic structure. I don't actually use those because they really only work for standard Arabic. But if you're working in standard Arabic, like there's lots of tools. And Camel Tools also has a great website with tutorials and support also.
Thank you.
And with a lot of these projects, basically the way I start, and the way you can start any project, is you just find someone who's doing something like kind of what you want to do, and then steal their code, change it to make it do what you want to do. It won't work the first time, like it won't work maybe the first like 20 times. You keep working on it, and then you learn as you're doing that. So for instance, this Islamic studies thing, I didn't know about this open ITI thing at all. So I just searched, Google for Islamic studies NLP, and I found a blog post by a guy who does this. And so he was using one of those texts, and he was doing the cleaning and everything. And I stole a lot of his code for this. And then he was doing like sophisticated stuff. He was doing like semantic analysis or sentiment analysis or something like that, way beyond what I do. But you can, lots of people put what they do online, and they make their code available, and they even have blogs explaining it.